Hey, good afternoon, everybody. George Veitengruber from Veitengruber Law coming to you live with Melissa Desantis, who is a broker for EXP Realty. Melissa, thanks for joining us. Sorry for the technical difficulties in getting started. Just wanted to try to say I'm so mad about Facebook Live, but we'll get over it. Technical difficulties are part of the new normal now. So let's just chat and see how life's going for us.
Yes, thank you for taking the time and having me, George.
Absolutely. So I looked it up, and March 19th, first day of spring, you and I were hanging out in my conference room, and the ice cream man showed up.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, it was amazing. We got ice cream. We got to talk like normal people, but March 19th was also kind of crazy because it was the last day that my office was running out of the wall office. And then the next day, everybody went into their own little cubbies at home, and we started this new virtual reality where everybody seems to be working off-site in one way or another. How have you been doing over the last 7 weeks?
Has it been it's been 7 weeks? Oh my gosh.
Maybe 8, don't tell anybody.
So, okay, you know, I've had my good days and my not so good days. You try to stay positive and optimistic. And I personally try not to watch too much of the news. It makes me crazy. But you know, it's been a roller coaster ride, I guess.
I think that's a fair way to describe it. And it's funny, when I go back and I look at the picture of us with Mr. Softy, one of the people commented that day and said, "You're not social distancing." And I was like, "Oh, shut up. You're just busting my balls over something goofy." And
Right.
now 7 weeks later, it feels like the information police are out there, and the concept of social distancing and not having the mask on and not using gloves, or maybe using gloves, or making sure you have wipes and product and everything. It seems like now the weight of those comments 7 or 8 weeks later feel a lot different than when we were just at the middle of March.
Right. Well, I think it really became real. What, the 22nd is really when the state shut down. So just a few days later.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, Teresa Hargrave and I met with Ivy, I think, maybe it was a week or two before that. I remember it was a Friday, and everybody was talking about it. Oh, this is going to, and we were all, the three of us, like, no, this is going to happen. What are they, crazy? And then it was like overnight, things changed.
Yeah. And really, one of those interesting things that we've dealt with is real estate in general. It's changed, but it's still to some degree business as almost usual as we can possibly have it. I don't know about you, but we've had 20 real estate transactions open as brand new files over those last 7 weeks. So we know people are still buying and selling property. It just comes with an asterisk and a whole new set of rules and guidelines. And as somebody that's got a team that they work with, and an office structure and a support team, how are you seeing real estate over the last 2 months? What are you seeing changes? What's good? What's bad? What's just a new challenge?
I mean, first of all, I just think it's a slower process because things are getting delayed for so many different reasons, whether it's the lender, the townships, the appraisals, you know, things aren't happening as quickly as normal. That's number one. I also seeing issues with appraisals. I've spoken to several realtors. They've been lucky enough not to have the problem, but I had 2 appraisals in the past 2 weeks where one of the homes underappraised by $70,000, and the other one just came back and underappraised by $16,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I saw the one about the 75,000, and you guys fought it, right?
70.
Got it
Yeah, it
fixed?
was 70. Yes. Yes.
And what did you have to what hurdles did you have to jump through in order to get it fixed?
Well, it took about 3.5 weeks, and you know, I spoke to other realtors and attorneys, and everybody said it's never going to happen. The bank's never going to come back and bring up the value. Myself and I'm the listing agent, the selling agent, submitted documentation to the lender to show other homes that were not used in the appraisal that should have been used. And we just kept hearing, you have to wait, you have to wait. But in the interim, everybody was saying, you're wasting your time. The bank's not going to change it. And two weeks ago, or not 2 weeks ago, but almost 2 weeks ago on Friday, I got the call from the lender saying, guess what? The bank brought up the value. I was shocked.
That's awesome. And your buyer stuck in?
And the buyers, yes, the buyers stuck in. And, but then, you know, we finally got through that, waiting for the commitment, and the bank was backed up, and I have my sellers who are trying to get into their new home. So it's just kind of a domino effect every way around. When one issue comes up, it affects so many other parts of the transaction.
Right.
You know, so we were very lucky that I don't know how it happened, but they did bring up the value. And then another deal underappraised at $16,000. The way I see it, it shouldn't have underappraised, but according to the buyer's agent, this type of loan that they're doing, they're using a different type of appraisal to come up with the value. So, I mean, it's not 70,000, but it's 16,000, and to a seller, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels like the big takeaway from this obviously becomes this is an issue of communication, trying to pull through some of those hurdles and making sure that both sides are on board and just communicating to keep deals moving forward in a productive way.
Right. And then the other issues I'm having are getting COs from the townships. You know, Marlboro Township is actually been good. They're doing affidavits from the buyer and seller, and once they reopen, then the buyer has 30 days to get their CO. But I'm dealing with, I have a listing in Englishtown, and Englishtown CO process is different from Manalapan. And we're supposed to close the end of May. I've been on the phone with the inspector. He told me, well, you got to tell them push back the closing to end of June, beginning of July, because the home's not vacant and nobody can inspect. However, my seller now has a house in Florida she's got to get into. The buyer's rate lock is going to expire, and they won't work with us to get the CO.
So in a case like that, obviously we don't want to dig too much into the back and forth minutia, but what we've been dealing with for those cases is from the attorney side doing a holdback in order to cover potential CO issues that come down the line. And we've been having the standard list of what they're looking for a CO inspection and review those as walkthrough issues and have the buyer and seller agree to basically a CCO process. And it seems like most towns have been going with that. But as you're saying, town by town, we're seeing a little bit of a different structure as to how they're handling that situation,
right.
Making it part of the challenge.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So obviously, guys, when you're dealing with closings, make sure that you're paying attention to how your towns are handling it. And communicate with the town, with your realtor, with your attorney, because we've consistently closed most of our deals in the last month with a holdback on CCO issues, just to make sure that once the towns do open, it's being taken care of. We want business as usual. We don't want closings to be hung up by towns saying just push it back. And
but
obviously that's a hurdle.
The township is not giving you permission. Can you still go ahead and close without the CO?
So far, my position has been yes, because since the towns aren't issuing it, we're effectively saying that towns aren't open to do this. There is an inspection related issue to it. Or what we're doing is, unfortunately, we're issuing it so that we make sure the person has all of their stuff out and they get out. That creates an ugly situation, obviously, because we're left in limbo for the closing, but that's what the holdback money is generally for. We do the closing dry. We don't have the buyer have the opportunity to move in for a few days while we can schedule the inspector to come in and try to deal with the issue.
So you're saying have the seller be out so that then the inspector will come in once the house is vacant?
Yeah, and then the buyer can take possession of the property once the inspector can get in there, and we just hold the money as the condition of if something goes wrong, we don't have to go chasing somebody later.
Right, right. Okay.
But it's tricky. It's absolutely not something that we would have experienced 2 months ago. This is a completely different way to handle it.
Right. It's new. There's a lot of new, obstacles going on in the industry that, we've never, as realtors, I'm sure you as an attorney have never had to deal with. So it's just kind of figuring out how to manage it and get through it and think out of the box and figure it out and get it done.
Absolutely.
That's really what it is.
What are you seeing from new clients? Are you still getting clients that are coming in and listing their houses, or people saying they're scared and they want to hold off?
So, a lot of people were holding off until mid-May. And now that they said, okay, we're at least into June 7th, I have a couple of sellers that are going to move forward and put their house on the market. And I feel if you want to sell your home, and there is precautions to take to do it safely, but there are buyers out there that are just waiting for new homes to come on the market. It's a problem right now. There's a lack of inventory. Buyers can't find homes. I have buyers that are selling down in South Carolina and coming up here for work, and they're terrified to accept an offer on their home because they're like, Melissa, there's nothing on the market. They can't find anything. So I think, in my opinion, if you're going to sell, you should be doing it sooner rather than later, because once the pandemic slows down, home prices are going to start to drop, and you're not going to get the money you would get now. Right now, there's not much competition on the market at all.
Yeah, and I think we were actually starting in the winter with limited inventory, and you had some very aggressive offers show up for real estate that we normally wouldn't have seen if it was a flooded market.
Right.
And nothing's really changed with that. Is now there's probably even less inventory and more competition. One of my realtor friends listed a house on Friday, and by the end of the weekend, she had 10 offers on the property, and they were already 40,000 over what it listed for, simply because people are jumping at good properties as quickly as possible.
Right. If you prepare your home and price it correctly, you should, it should be gone, not gone, but you should have multiple offers on it within the first few days.
Absolutely.
That we're in. Now, what's going to happen 6 months from now, a year from now? I don't know. I mean, I can't predict that, but let's just hope it doesn't go back to, 07, 08.
Right. And obviously, one of the reasons Melissa and I started talking in the first place was both of us are very well versed in short sales and the crisis that happened with the last recession. And nobody knows the future. We don't know if that's where it's heading, but I'm of the same knee-jerk reaction of you. Right now, the market we know is hot, and we know it's hot because there isn't a lot of inventory. Interest rates are incredibly low. If you're already qualified for a mortgage, there's a lot of people that are interested in jumping into houses. So if your hesitation is you don't want to list because you don't know what's coming up in the future, that's not necessarily the best reason to wait. But it does come with those new interesting caveats of how are we showing houses? How are we looking at properties? And what have you experienced with that? Are you seeing people that have concerns about walkthroughs and inspectors coming through the house and the general just viewing it? And how are you communicating with your sellers in order to make sure that they're comfortable letting people see the house?
So, I mean, I'm saying to my sellers, before you show your home, put on all the lights, open all the doors. You want to make sure that they have booties, that people are coming in with masks. The gloves, I don't know. I don't know if that does anything. Hand sanitizer there, but just, and telling the buyer, the selling agent, please don't have them touch anything. When they come through, all the lights will be on, all the doors will be on, but also taking the good thing that's coming from this is that a lot of agents are requesting to see the buyer's pre-approval so that we know they're serious buyers coming in, and are committed to buying a home. And so there's more due diligence being done up front so that you're not wasting anyone's time just, oh, let's run around and look at homes.
Less looky-loos, more committed buyers.
Yeah, more, yes. Because if you're not really serious about buying a home, you shouldn't be out during this time just looking at homes just for the sake of it. So,
You know, I heard something interesting from one of the realtors, and they scheduled basically a curbside version of walkthroughs where they were giving 15-minute appointment slots, and the realtor was at the home. The seller of the home left the home and went to just be out of the way and not have to worry about it. But in 15-minute segments, people were allowed to view the home with the same provisions you just said: mask on, hands in their pockets, the lights were on, the doors were open. There was no reason to touch anything except they had the ability to walk through the house, physically see it, to make that informed decision before they purchased. Because I think that's still a big component of this process. People have to be able to see the home. You're not getting a lot of people that are going, oh yeah, sight unseen, no problem. Let me commit to that $500,000 purchase.
right. I mean, and you're seeing more, you know, tours, video walkthroughs, 3D tours. But again, it's like you just said, I wouldn't be comfortable just looking online saying, okay, let me go pay $500,000 for this home when I hadn't physically stepped into it. I think that's still important, is being able to physically go and see the home and be there.
I do too. I can't envision a world where we're just gonna check the box and say okay, without my father there the first time walking through the house and saying, you know, son, it's a 100-year-old house. It comes with a lot of warts. Just be prepared for what you're doing. Sometimes the pictures and the virtual tour isn't going to necessarily show you that. And we'd rather have solid, strong deals put in place rather than somebody go, oh, good, the inspector just came back and here's the 100 things wrong with it. And now we're back to the drawing board. We don't want to lose committed buyers that found issues because they were surprised by the virtual tour didn't quite live up to the physical tour once the inspector got in there.
And, you know, I've seen, you know, challenges arise because my last couple of listings, the homeowner was out of the house and only the inspector went in. So the seller wasn't there, the realtors weren't there, the buyers weren't there. And when that report then comes back to the buyers, it's overwhelming because they weren't there to discuss it with the inspector and see what he's talking about. So it's been challenging because, you know, some of them get nervous, overwhelmed, and, you know, these reports, some of them can be intimidating, and it just, the inspector's sending it to the buyer to decipher, and they're like, wait a minute, what am I buying?
When we're looking at a 70-page comprehensive report and we think every little thing is actually a problem, when you and I, people that are in the industry, understand there might be 5 to 10 things on that report that actually matter, and then 60 pages that might be CYA and just things to pay attention to. We've been seeing FaceTime walkthroughs where basically the inspector will get the client on a video chat so they can walk through the home at the same time. Obviously, one of those things that we didn't appreciate is many of the inspectors in New Jersey have been at this for a long time. So they might have the technology problem too, where they don't even know how to do that technology. They're used to the old way of having the buyer there. And you're absolutely right. I've had sellers that have given pushback and said, I don't want the buyer in the home during the inspection. And I also think that's crazy. It's a communication piece up front where we have to make sure the sellers understand buyer's entitled to their walkthrough. And if that means that they're going to be there, it's okay. We're not asking for mom, dad, and the kids to run through the house with them, but the people that signed the contract and committed to the $400,000, $500,000 purchase have the right to be there with the inspector, so we don't have these issues.
But some inspectors are requesting that no one's inside the house but them.
So crazy. It's such a challenge.
Yes, it is. And there's really no guidelines, direct guidelines that have been put in place, as far as I know, on, okay, only the inspector can be there, or only the inspector and the buyers can be there. It's just kind of case by case.
And it is, and that's one of the hardest things, is that because I think we were all caught off guard 8 weeks ago, we're playing without a blueprint, we're playing without a map, and that's creating a lot of uncertainty, it's creating fear, and we can't necessarily live in that world. We have to kind of try to navigate around it so that we can still conduct business. And that kind of brings us to one of those tricky areas. The latest thing that seems to be panicking people this week is the summer market's upon us, and all of those summer rentals down the shore. Some towns are saying they're going to open up for it, other towns are restricting it, and they're causing a lot of back and forth fight. I don't know, I don't think you do that kind of real estate, but are you touched by anybody that is, and what are they experiencing?
No, I don't really do that type of you know, Jersey Shore short-term rentals. But as you're saying this, I'm thinking in my mind, if it was like 20 years ago, I would be freaking out, because my friends and I always did a beach house, you know, in Manasquan Point or Belmar or wherever. And all year we looked forward to that. It was like what got us through the year was knowing that we were going down to the Jersey Shore for the summer. So as you're saying this, I'm just thinking of that. Oh my God, I would have been devastated.
And that's absolutely what we're about to experience. Is how do you give shore houses to the pack of 20 or 30 people that pile together and get one of those 10,000 a week homes, not sweating it because, you know, they were all just coming down from Jersey City and Hoboken to do that fun week. And that week looks like it's going to be curtailed and hasn't quite been thought through yet, but I'm sure those kind of designations are coming, which is why you're getting pushbacks from the towns as to how they're going to open those weeks up.
I don't
Scary.
know.
Something else to talk about.
And then the homeowners that depend on this income every year, every summer.
Absolutely. And that's also going to be another tricky, troubling spot that I don't think has an answer yet.
Right. We're not going to see it in 2-3 months from now, what the outcome is from that, but we're going to see it a year, 2 years, what's going to happen.
Yeah. And yeah, we painted ourselves into a corner on this issue, and there is no outcome from it. So here's what we're going to do: an absolute hard pivot. You and I shared something during this pandemic. Both of us have kids that wound up having socially distanced birthdays. You have twins, and I saw pictures on your Facebook of their birthday. What did you guys do?
So I had signed gypsies come, and they put on your lawn, you know, happy birthday, Nick and Gabby, big sign on the lawn. So that was there when they woke up. Then we had, I made it like a scavenger hunt for them where they did, you know, the scavenger to hunt through the house. And then I sent out a video to all their friends and our family, and people recorded a message, and it made like this awesome video. And then they had like a drive-by parade. However, at the drive-by parade, people started getting out of their cars. Not everybody, but a few people got out of their cars, and we were social distancing, but everybody was kind of talking. And, you know, you have to understand these are 11-year-old kids. They haven't been around their friends. So to see the joy in their eyes is like just from seeing their friends, you know. And the parents are trying, okay, everybody keep your distance, but they were just so excited to see everybody. And so everybody was kind of standing outside, again, social distancing, but talking. And someone must have called the cops, because when the cops started driving around. So I don't know. To me, it just seems a little crazy. You're not allowed to stand outside your house with a lot of, you're outside and air, but you're allowed to go into like a Target, a Walmart, or whatever, and walk around there with a lot more people.
It's a super complicated issue, and I think the hardest thing we're having to deal with, obviously, on this is the kids. So Grayson's 7,
okay,
and because he's 7, and my other son Jake, he's only 4. This is a super complicated issue, trying to convince 7 and 4-year-olds to even be aware of if somebody's within 6 feet of them, much less, you know, how to see and be excited about friends and know that no, you can't go over there.
Mhm.
So for Grayson's birthday, we wound up doing the Zoom happy birthday,
Okay.
where we had the cake, we had the candles, everybody sung happy birthday from their respective homes scattered across the country. But we basically couldn't do anything with the friends. We just left it at family and cake on site and singing and everybody sharing on video and hanging out for a half hour. Because I can't put the trust in a 7-year-old to even understand or appreciate what 6 feet of distancing is. So I'm sorry. I didn't know that somebody had called the cops. So you had people zipping around town, but I knew that you had the sign and you had a caravan of cars coming through for the birthday.
Mhm. Yeah, and you know what? But I put it on Facebook. It was not their normal like birthday, because I always wanted to give them these big birthday parties, which
Oh yeah.
in hindsight, I don't think they really care about. But as a parent, it makes you feel like you're doing like this great thing for them. And this birthday, I think, you know, they enjoyed it just as much, if not more, than their previous birthdays that I spent a lot of money on.
Yeah, there's absolutely some perspective on that. Grayson's birthday always hits during spring break, so I know exactly where we would have been on his birthday this year. We would have been sitting on Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, zipping around Disney World, because it's just what we've grown accustomed to doing.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, this year we spent money on, everybody shipped him gifts from Amazon, and he wound up with more Marble Run material than I could possibly know what to do with. But the $6 worth of pool noodles I bought and cut in half became the fun, flexible Marble Run that was just as easy as, you know, the hundreds of dollars we actually spent on the real gifts.
Mhm.
Kids look at birthdays different than parents. Parents feel that obligation, I think, to go over the top. And if nothing else, people that feel we've robbed our kids of their birthdays this time around, it brings us back to that concept of it's the family that's really the important part of it. And that's hopefully the message that they come back with.
Right. Exactly. And I think that the kids see that, and they see that it's not the material things or the big parties or all of that that's important. You know, it's the love from your family and friends, and just them taking the time to show how much they care during this time.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're coming up on the same thing this weekend, where we're going to be experiencing Mother's Day. And we actually made the decision that we're going to have to do Mother's Day from a social distance. I think my parents are going to visit my sister and hang out in the yard, but then we're going to do it again where it's just my kids with my parents visiting from their yard. We couldn't trust bringing the cousins together, because same thing, 7-year-old boys that probably won't get it. And
Right.
no matter what we do to keep them apart from each other, it's not going to happen.
But you know what's going to happen. So for Mother's Day, us mothers are screwed. But for Father's Day, you guys will probably be fine.
Well, that's because they opened the damn golf courses already. So the fathers think that they're set, they're good to go.
Yeah.
Yes, but you know what? I think this happens every year, is that the mothers may get a little bit more shafting. So guys, if you're watching this, remember the mothers think that they're going to get shafted. So overdo it on the gifts,
There
because
you
even
go.
though it is about friends and family, if you get them a really baller gift, they will absolutely forget that they had to quarantine during this Mother's Day.
Yeah, that would make up for it for me too.
All right, I'm working on just
Getting
text
that
me your
message
husband's number, and I'll plant the seed as to what he needs to get you.
out.
So what else? What's your takeaway? How are you handling this, and where do you see the next month or two in pushing forward with business, with the family?
um, I I don't know. I was hopeful that my kids were going to go back to school, and obviously I was in La La Land. That's not happening. I just hope that I think that I just hope, I'm not saying open everything up and let's go back to normal. I just think or hope that they're going to slowly reopen, uh, because you know, and I put a post out yesterday saying, you know, oh, reopen New Jersey, because I have seen, heard, and saw a lot of issues, not because of COVID necessarily, but because of mental illness and what's going on. And I think that that's important, just as important as COVID. And if we don't reopen and get things, you know, started here in New Jersey, it's just not going to be good. My heart breaks for small business owners. And are they ever going to be able to reopen? Are they? It's scary. So I don't know. That didn't really answer your question, but I just hope they'll open it slowly and let people start to get their lives back.
I think you brought up a valid point with the conversation that you started yesterday on that. And what I actually did as a result of that, as a result of your post, is I have another one of these Zooms scheduled for next Tuesday at 3 o'clock. We've started doing these regularly. They're at 3 o'clock on Tuesdays and Thursdays every week until we're, you know, allowed back into the office, and we'll see what happens from there. But I moved up to next Tuesday, a chat I'm going to have with Linda Keenan, who is the director at Preferred Behavioral Health, because you're absolutely right. People's wellness, their understanding of how to deal with this situation, how they're feeding themselves, how they're mentally keeping themselves well through this. It's a big issue that we feel from a perspective that it might not be addressed as well as it could. It's just another domino in that whole issue of, do you have financial security? Do you have mental security? Where are we sitting with this? What I learned from Linda is that they had their telehealth put together super fast. And a lot of these meetings that have gone online have been as productive, if not more productive, than the meetings they were having before that, because now that people are cooped up in their houses,
Right.
They're not as intimidated to show up for these meetings. Some of them are opening up in a way that is completely different than they did 8 weeks ago.
I could see that.
So it's a silver lining thing, right? This is not what we expected or not what we wanted, but fortunately there are support groups out there for people. There's absolutely support, and hopefully people that are feeling alone, feeling isolated, feeling vulnerable know that they can jump into those kind of opportunities. And we'll make sure to post some links in this feed, and obviously the feed for next week, so that people are aware and don't feel like this is hopeless, that there really will be a time where we come out. And obviously that only answered half of your question. When it comes to the small businesses, it's another ugly ball of wax, because I think you're right. To a degree, small businesses could govern themselves just as easily as all of these big chains that have put these rules and regulations in effect. The question becomes the rollout and what's the appropriate measure to do it. Neither you or I are a logistics expert in this. We're just people that are talking and can figure it out, but there will be a plan eventually. And I think sooner rather,
you know, because someone responded to my post and said, oh, you know, selfish people that just want to make money and go to the beach. That's not what it's about. It's not about making money, and it's about survival for yourself and your family, and if you have a business.
I think you and I have this in common, right? Your degree was in communications as well, right?
Right.
Yeah, so as communications majors, my brain shifted right back to those conversations with Professor Sergel, where it was, you can make these hasty generalizations to deflect from the point, and it's not. Obviously, you can give an easy soundbite that says, yeah, this is selfish people about the Jersey Shore. I know it's not that. You know it's not that. We also know that we fall in a privileged class where some people aren't. I had good money saved in the bank. I actually had protected myself and worked on my budget. So I knew that I could survive it. I know that the lower middle class and the low class are not going to be in that same position, and they might not be getting the same benefits. And I know that the small business owner that already was struggling to get by, this might push them under. There is a balance test, unfortunately, right?
Yes.
And I think that balance is where we're screwed. What is the cost of a human life? What is the cost in a state where we're second highest death rate in the country versus some of those businesses? And I appreciate everybody that has gone along with the plan for the last 7 or 8 weeks, and now all of a sudden is frustrated that the plan isn't materializing fast enough for them to come back up. The question really becomes, once there is an actual plan that comes back up, how are people going to react to it?
Right. Yeah. And will it be too late for people to get back on their feet? Some people.
Right. The only thing I found interesting that I wanted to point out was that when we look at the foreclosure crisis that we just came out of in the last decade, and when we look at what happened after Sandy, this is all 8 weeks of figuring it out as we go along. And I think that at the end of this, you're going to see stopgap measures from the government, from the state, that are going to be there to keep people in their homes and to provide supplemental benefits to keep people moving forward, that they might not be able to keep their current business, but they're going to be able to keep their home and have the opportunity to rebuild from this. That's just speculation. I'm just a guy talking. But, you know, I mean, the last time around, that's where all of these loan modifications came from. That's where Cash for Keys programs came from. That's where New Jersey with Home Keepers and Home Savers came from. In a crisis, the government does step in. And some people obviously are going to still go under, but a lot of people are going to wind up getting a safety net that hopefully they have the time and opportunity to recover from this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my hope. I know just as much as you do, which is whatever the internet's telling me today.
And it changes on a daily basis, it seems.
Hour by hour sometimes.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So what's next? How's your spring summer market starting to come together? Are you getting more people coming that are interested? Are they reaching out? Are they ready to start?
As far as to put their homes on the market?
Yep.
I mean, I have a couple that I'm putting up in the next week to 2 weeks, and a couple of other people that were really on hold that we'll see, you know, now that it's been, you know, pushed back to June, what they want to do. And then buyers who just are waiting for homes to come on the market. So for me personally, I have not had a normal spring market. Typically right now I've had a lot more listings and a lot more closings. For me, it hasn't been that way. I think for every agent it's different, but I think the majority of the agents are in my boat, where it just hasn't been our typical spring market.
No, I don't think so either. The spring market was kneecapped, obviously. And the question becomes, when the summer opens, will it be heavier than normal, or will it feel like the spring market and then we'll extend into the fall? We had a very normal March. We had an unusually busy January and February when it came to real estate, which carried over into March with the last of the closings. And over the last month and a half, surprisingly, we've had 20 new real estate deals pop up since the last time I saw you. But we've had our bankruptcy drop off the cliff because people are sitting in the middle of this. So the people that normally would have filed already don't know if it's going to get worse. And all of the sheriff sales have gotten canceled. So the people that would have come in just to stop that sheriff sale, they all disappeared. They'll come back in a couple of months. And I guess that's how I'm focusing my business, is concentrating on the build of what will come once this starts to loosen up. And I feel like, and hope for the realtor's sake, that's exactly what's going to happen to them too, is regulations start loosening up. And as people realize the timeline of, they still need to sell because they want to sell before the next school year starts. Hopefully there is a school year that starts.
Right.
I'm hoping your market starts to bounce back right now.
I mean, I was thinking that it was going to be like the summer was going to be the spring market, you know, where it was just crazy and we can't keep up. And it may be that way. I don't know. I think it just depends on a lot. It depends a lot on what happens over the next few weeks and where we go with this whole thing. What's going to happen with the real estate market.
And as your final takeaway, anything you want to say as encouragement to all of your other realtor friends that have poked their head in to see what the hell we're talking about today?
Oh, just keep pushing through. Don't take no for an answer. Just think outside the box. I know for me, it's been challenging at times because of the problems that have arisen. I'm not as busy as I want to be. So work in your business, work on things that you never have the opportunity to do. For me, I've been recording a lot of videos, working on my website, and doing things that I typically would never have the time to do right now. But you got to keep a positive mindset. This will pass. It will pass. And they say that, a lot of realtors are going to get out of the business. I started full time in 2007. So as soon as I went full time, what happened in 07, the market tanked. But I just kept at it and I had a great year. And I think we can all have a great year too. We just have to overcome the challenges and keep a positive mindset.
That's a great spot to end it. Guys, I hope that you do push through the challenges. If we can help in any way, please reach out to myself or reach out to Melissa. We're all in this together. One of the best things about Jersey is the desire to want to help each other. We might give you shit along the way, but we promise we'll be there for you. So don't give up. Don't be hopeless about this situation. Fight through it and push. Melissa, thanks for joining us today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, George. And hopefully I get to really physically see you soon.
Ice cream on me.
Okay, great.
All right.
Thanks.